And that leaves little creativity to think outside the box, right? I'm like an entrepreneur at heart. So I'm always thinking about, people could be creating businesses or even those that have businesses. How do you even have, you know, again, the capacity to even be innovative about a business or something like that? No, you're stuck in this little rat wheel of like, I just need to survive. I need to pay. And then you feel unfulfilled and then you feel miserable when you wake up and I'm like, I gotta go to this job.
Literally.
Welcome to the EasySpeak Speakeasy.
You've unlocked the door to unfiltered mental health and wellness conversations. Welcome to episode 36 of the EasySpeak Speakeasy.
Woo!
I'm Diana, and we're here with
Christy. KG the OG.
KG the OG. And we're back for another riveting conversation on all things mental health. And we have a very awesome guest with us today.
Yes. I'm very excited that we keep bringing back these unfiltered mental health and wellness conversations for all of the people's eardrums.
Yes. Yeah, I'm so excited.
Shall we talk about what we're having to drink before we bring our guest in?
Yes.
Okay.
You tell us. This is your creation.
We are Boston girls.
Yes.
Our core.
Go.
And the Celtics are slaying the days. I already know there's going to be a certain amount of people that listen that are like, oh, Boston fans. Listen, this is a total sorry, not sorry moment.
Yes.
So the Celtics are doing their thing in the playoffs. And so today we are drinking a Boston Tea Party.
Yes.
Cheers. On that one, let's go C's.
Did we do the right thing with the glasses this time? Oh, our glasses are matching finally. Slay.
It's about time we got it together.
I know. Yeah, I'm very excited for the Celtics Eastern Conference Finals. I think the first game is tonight. And I'm saying the Celtics are going to win it in 7 against the Pacers. That's my prediction. So,
okay.
We'll drink to that because we're going to the finals this year, baby.
We're going to the finals.
We're going to the ship.
Yeah, we're taking it all the way. I can't wait. So there may be some more Boston inspired cocktails coming up. There may be more Celtics talk to come on this mental health podcast.
100%. I don't know why I'm not even wearing any Celtics colors, but that's fine. I still have time between now and game time to.
I know. Right before I was getting dressed, I was like, "Oh, I should put on my Celtics t-shirt." But then, time. I had to make the drink.
It's fine. The drink which took like 12 hours. Once you see the recipe list. In true Boston fashion, it's got all the things in it.
Seriously.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's bring our guest on.
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce Ana to our audience?
Yeah, let's bring her in.
Okay.
And as she's coming in, I will introduce her. We are so excited to bring Ana to the stage. I'm going to hopefully not butcher her name, which 2 seconds ago I was pretty confident about it, but now that I've been talking, I don't know. So Ana, oh man, I'm scared to say it now. Ana, I'm gonna let you say your last name.
I was gonna say you got it. Diana said it.
Ayobiojo.
Ayobiojo. Y'all got it. What's up, y'all?
Hey, girl.
The confidence was unmatched, and then she was like, "Nah."
I was very confident that I started talking, and then I had 2 sips of this drink, and then I was like, "Oh my gosh, no, I'm scared."
Listen, that drink is dangerous.
It is.
Y'all are bold.
That's right. We are. That's the whole point of this podcast, is to be bold about mental health. So.
Yes. I love it.
Yes.
Thanks for having
Yeah.
me, y'all. I'm like, all the feels to be on y'all's podcast. I'm like honored.
Oh,
Seriously.
Oh my gosh.
thank you for coming. I if I remember this correctly, I think when Diana and I first started Pinnacle, you invited us onto your podcast, and I think it was the first podcast that we were ever on together was your
Really?
podcast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes my heart swell. That's
Yes.
so awesome.
How many years ago was that?
I was just gonna say that feels like years ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it definitely was. It probably at least 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. Oh
Yes. Oh
my
my
gosh.
gosh.
We've
Amazing.
Wow.
gone through a whole pandemic.
Yeah.
And back.
No, listen. That's an accomplishment. I mean, I'll drink to that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. OMG.
That was intense.
So what have you been up to, Anna? It's been a minute. What have
I
you been up to?
know.
What's happening?
So much, all the things. I mean, we made it through the pandemic, and I'm like, feels like sometimes barely because we're still dealing with the residue. That's a whole different conversation.
Mhm.
At that time I was living in Georgia. I was homeschooling, 3 kiddos. Baby girl was a few months old. Um, what else? And I was doing the
Homeschool.
podcast. Yes.
Wow.
I felt like I had no choice at that point because during the pandemic, the whole Zoom thing, I was like, this is giving me
Yeah.
major anxiety I'm like, they're rolling on the floor because they had a break every other second. I'm like, you guys are not really schooling. This is ridiculous. And I felt bad for the teachers. My husband was an educator at that time. And he was in a room locked in teaching middle schoolers via Zoom. And, that was an adventure. So we pulled them
Middle
out.
schoolers of all of the grades.
Listen, it was, let's just say I said was. He's no longer an educator.
Yeah. Yep.
More educators. So many educators now are like, I'm gonna go and work at Dairy Queen and make the prettiest little loop at the top of these ice cream cones because that brings me joy.
Literally brings me joy. I don't care how much it pays. Pay me an ice cream.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Literally. And he was one of those. He left last year. So, we were homeschooling. He was teaching. I was doing the podcast. I started the podcast, the Community Well podcast. I was doing a little bit coaching of my own with moms, just a little bit because, I was homeschooling, trying to balance all that. I was like, let's be realistic.
Yeah.
And then now I am now living in Texas. I actually work full time for a company as a mental health coach, still doing the podcast, still doing the stuff on the side. The kiddos went back to school.
Hey.
They went back to school because I was like, y'all gotta go back.
Yeah.
Baby girl is 4 years old. She went to school. She goes to school a few times a week. And then the husband's now in tech, no longer an educator. So I feel like so much has changed, and I just realized it as y'all asked me.
Yes. Yes. The evolution of life,
Yeah.
and it's really interesting because as I'm listening to you talk, I'm, just thinking about my own journey over the last few years, and like really everything is like centered on what's happening with the kids. Right? It's like you figure out what's going on with them first, and then you fill in the gaps around that
part.
Yeah.
Literally that part is like that mom life. And not, everybody parents differently. For me, I'm like, they're only this small. I can't miss this. And, I have a semi life of my own. Let's not pretend I don't. But, even like my job, like it revolves around them. I work the night shift so I can have the day with them and have flexibility and act like I'm a stay-at-home mom. But, not really.
Yeah.
So it's like life around the kiddos. And now that they're teenagers, I'm like, and I can't remember the ages of y'all's kids, but this teenage life and them thinking that I'm, their Uber driver and just like an ATM machine. I'm like, what just happened?
I'm a few years off from that. Mine are 8 and 6. So
got it. Yep.
Oh, mine are 19 and 24. So
it's like the other, and we have all in betweens.
The whole spectrum.
Yeah.
Yes, look at that.
It's like a whole different set of problems the older that they get. It's very interesting. I thought it would be easier, but it did not get easier as we came through the teenage years.
Great.
Take another sip, girl.
Yeah. Seriously, that's a great idea.
Oh my god.
I know, it's
I
an
saw this
exciting
meme the other day, and it was like, there's nothing like asking my child for my phone charger, and they look at me and ask me what percent my phone is on.
every time. Like, it's not your whole charger.
I'm like, "Yes, that is my life. Your own charger.
I
You
know,
buy
like,
800 of them."
I have to ask you, like, what? I have to ask for the TV because we have one TV and one, like, the video game system is on that one TV.
Mm,
And that was a little bit on purpose because this technology, I have mixed feelings about it. I'm like, "You're taking over." So I'm like, "We
yeah.
just need one TV." And I'm like, "Can I watch a movie?" I have to ask permission in my own house because it's always on that system, like, what?
You- You're better than me. I would not be asking for permission. You're better than me.
That's because your kids are still young.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
They are
older
starting
they
to call me
get
bruh though, which I don't literally I had to say to my 8-year-old the other day, I'm not your bro. Like,
Yeah.
what? He's
Well,
like,
you know what's worse is that
bro. I'm like,
I call people bro now.
you call people bro? 'Cause
Yes,
you're a
I
kid?"
take some their language and I'm like, "Bro," like, 'cause I used to say, like, "dude" a lot.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Bro." I am them. I am now them.
I definitely call people bro and bruh, but I do not like it when the kids do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When the kids
Yeah.
call me bruh, I'm like, you are too comfortable. Like,
I'm
there's
like, let's take this all the way to mother.
yes.
Now you can call me mother.
Yeah.
Listen, girl, my son, my middle one, I feel like the middle ones are just special. He decided to call me Anna, and I'm like, "But who's Anna?"
Uh-uh.
"That's
No.
your name." I'm like, "Yeah, not to you.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Your home mother."
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Christy on this. Mother, okay?
Yes. We'll start there. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll let you know when you can call me mom.
that's it,
Yeah.
right. Privileges have been revoked. You're not mother. You
Yes.
you have to earn it back to mom.
Yeah, exactly. We're going very formal on
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness. So funny.
Oh, that's funny. That
So
mama.
Anna, over this past time that, things have been kind of evolving and through the pandemic, how do you feel like things have been going in terms of the types of clients that you've been seeing, or maybe the needs that have been shifting? Here we've been talking a lot about being really unfiltered and how we talk about the needs that are happening and how kind of there's a really dire feeling around the mental health need that is happening, and some of the challenges around access to services, and of course, um like the whole school situation and how schools are just losing educators. Kids are kind of calling everyone bruh. There's a real like lack of like structure that seems to be happening, and there's not enough guidance and adjustment counselors and all of those things. So I'm wondering, are those the types of things that you're seeing in the folks that you're working with as a mental health coach?
Yeah, that's a really good question, man. So much. So with the clients I've been seeing, I get a really like a vast, it's just everything on the spectrum. I see a lot of relationship issues. Um,
Mm,
Definitely parenting, relationship, a lot of people navigating in their partnerships and marriage, and getting divorces. Like I feel like there's a higher rate of that. And even when you see on social media, I'm like, everybody, it just seems like there, I feel like, and this is just me feeling, not even, but just there's like a lower capacity and a lower, like people have like less bandwidth to deal with things. You know what I
mm,
mean? Like there is very much this is what I deserve, and I need more. And I feel like the pandemic made people really evaluate what they want in their lives. But I also feel like there's a part where we just have a lot less bandwidth because there's so many changes in society that we haven't acknowledged. I feel like, again, the pandemic happened and it was just like, oh, let's just go back to normal life when it comes to
mhm.
employers and just all around, even school, even doing school the same way. We shouldn't have gone back. Unfortunately, we are right back just doing life as usual, and people's mental health are really struggling. So, definitely a lot with relationship and parenting, and definitely a lot of kids struggling with their own mental health issues and being overwhelmed again because I have issues with the education system, but I'm like, these tests that they have to take and all these different things that don't really accommodate the whole child. And then, now you're adding more pressure, these long days. And so they're struggling, not having the words, not having access to care, having parents that are trying to survive on their own. They're trying to take care of their own mental health. Now I have to support my child and I can't have access. It's like something's going to break and I have to work and survive here. So I can't even support you the way I need to. And then there's this aspect of like, and there's a truth to it, but like parents not parenting. But sometimes how are they supposed to know any better? How are they supposed to have the room to grow and develop and be better parents when they're literally just trying to survive? You know what I mean? So there's definitely some truth, but I feel like just the way the system is set up and everything is set up is just really, I don't know. I feel like it's just enraging and sad at the same time. It's, it's really hard. I have seen these innovative pop-ups of like, there's a company that provides mental health services to different districts in the schools, and they have coaches that provide mental health coaching for kids via Zoom. So a lot of like innovative things happening, but I'm like, there's still a gap,
Yeah. Yeah, the gap is there, and unfortunately, in some ways, it's widened because of the sheer like volume of people who need to access care, and then the lack of resources. It's so challenging, and I think what you're speaking to a lot is, the sense of like resilience, like you said that bandwidth, that's the word you use, but I think of it in terms of like resilience, like we're all human, right? There's only so much any single one of us can take. And, people have been squeezed in so many different directions, as a result of COVID. And we're still dealing with a lot of the, one of the things that's really prevalent for me as I'm working with people right now is like the financial strain that so many families are feeling with inflation being so high. That's a result of COVID, right? And how that shows up for people in their lives every day. Like you said, parents are trying to survive. Like the same, I saw a meme the other day. They were like, how come inflation hit just when I started getting comfortable with my salary? Like I started making more money, and then all of a sudden now my money doesn't even matter.
Literally. Like I might as well not even work.
Right. And so it's like, we always have this conversation about like basic needs, and if people don't have access to those basic needs, or if they're feeling like they have to be in survival mode on any level, how is that going to translate into being resilient from a mental health standpoint? It's really challenging.
Yeah, that's huge. And the anxiety around finances. So that causes a lot of mental strain in itself of like figuring out, what am I going to do? How am I going to survive? How can the little bit of resources that there are, how can I even access them? And that leaves little creativity to think outside the box, right? I'm like an entrepreneur at heart. So I'm always thinking about, people could be creating businesses, or even those that have businesses. How do you even have, you know, again, the capacity to even be innovative about a business or something like that? No, you're stuck in this little rat wheel of like, I just need to survive. I need to pay. And then you feel unfulfilled, and then you feel miserable when you wake up and I'm like, I gotta go to this job.
Literally, it's so funny. We've had so many conversations just along those veins recently, amongst ourselves, just like, it's innovation is kind of a blessing to be able to be innovative, right? To be able to be creative and to feel free. You need good mental health, you need your finances to be stable, you need life to be stable.
Yeah, because it is also scary along the way. Like we actually had a podcast episode where we talked about mental health and entrepreneurs, and how there's this kind of like sexy messaging out there about like anybody can start a business, anybody can become a YouTube star, anybody can do all these things. And yes, but with a ton of hard work, like none of the things that you just walk into a 9 to 5 job that are sitting there waiting for you exist as an entrepreneur, right? Like
Right.
there's no
Yeah.
healthcare, there's no sick leave, there's no time
Talk
off.
about it. Talk about
There's
it.
all of those things are just like waiting for you in the lurch. Like when you start off, you're like, I remember when Diana and I first started, we were like, in 3 years, we're going to be on an island.
Sipping Mai Tais. That was the
I
thing. We were like,
love it.
the business is going to be running itself
Yeah.
because we're so innovative and we know
Yep.
exactly how to solve all the problems.
Mhm.
But I
And that's
commend y'all. Y'all have come a long way, and just most importantly, you have remained consistent and together.
Mm.
And you're sipping on something, just not on a beach.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. We have continued to sip on things all along the way. That has been a
that has not
constant.
changed.
But the pandemic hit and we were like, wait a minute, we didn't manifest this correctly. We're all on individual islands, but they're in our houses.
Right.
We should have been a little more specific and said where and what beach and under what circumstances.
Make that vision clear.
It's true. The universe was like, oh, okay, great.
You're on an island.
Exactly.
Oh gosh.
Oh, that's too funny.
That is so funny.
So with the challenges related to relationships that you've seen, do you feel like the impacts that people are facing related to their kids in school is a theme that you're seeing across the board? Because I think we are definitely seeing parents struggling, like the secondary challenges that happen when their kids are struggling in school, like that comes home, and then it really can create some challenges, especially around agreement or disagreement with what should happen, and the stigma that is related to mental health, people not wanting their kids to get labeled, all of those kinds of conversations. Are you seeing some of those things kind of bubbling up as well?
Yeah, definitely. The biggest two things I see is definitely the impact on parenting, the issues in school, and kids having to navigate, different diagnoses within the system, that type of stuff, as well as parents' own mental health based on upbringing. So my area is always like the parents and sort of the generational things that they deal with to then have a healthy family unit and not being able to have that environment for the kids and for the partnerships and all that. So those are the two biggest things I do see. And it is hard for I've seen with partners trying to navigate their relationship, being individuals,
Mhm.
keeping that because you lose yourself in parenting and all the things, right? The partnership itself. And then also now you have the kids and navigating the different system and the lack of resources. Like, so my clients are all over the place because, we're virtual. But like in Texas, for example, I'm like, there is not a lot of resources. I come from Boston. In Boston, we had a lot of resources and hard to navigate and a lot of issues within our system, but we had a lot more access. And I feel like here is just like not even just access, but just availability of resources. And I'm like, here is just like, what's going on, right? And so definitely hardships in what to do. They're stuck. They're like, what do I do? And a lot of the work that I do isn't really, it feels different than what I did before, right? Because I was able to literally help people access resources and look for things. But I'm like, okay, what can we do at home? What are the things that we have to change, and not in a shaming way, but it's like, have you tried this? Have you tried that? How can you take care of yourself? Because I really focus on just the client that's there, because I'm not doing, family or couples, just focusing on the individual. What can you do for yourself to be able to manage what's going on? And sometimes, so what I love about my job is that I focus on I always do the big vision. What is it that you want with the big vision? Miracle question. And
Mhm.
then breaking that down. So every week, I'm the type of person that we're sitting there and we're like, you feel overwhelmed. Let's do a brain dump.
Mhm.
It seems so simple, but I'm the person that's giving you the simple things because sometimes you can't even think straight. It's like
Mhm.
when you tell your kids, like, stop breathing, be quiet, I
Yeah.
can't think. I didn't understand that when my mom, when I was like, what you mean you can't think?
Yeah.
It's me now. It's me. I am
Yeah.
overstimulated, please.
Yes.
Just can't even think. So I'm literally helping them with that parent load of like, I
Mhm.
can't help you fix all these things with the system and all that, unfortunately. But
Mhm.
what can I do right now? What resources can I give you to teach you about, psychoeducation about ADHD and anxiety and depression and teenagers and all these different things? And what can you do within what you're dealt with, which is really hard because there's also all the other feelings about all the things that I can't fix.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I think it's definitely really challenging from that perspective to kind of hear and know like what is happening when you're done with that session with that parent, and knowing that it's such an uphill battle right now for families, and that in some way you're giving people resources, but it's the way to try to access those resources and actually make that come to fruition is so difficult and
Mhm.
really impacts people's functioning.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That makes it sometimes worse. The anxiety is higher, then they come back and have different barriers.
Mhm. But that's really why I love the coaching model as opposed to like the traditional psychotherapy model. I love psychotherapy. I still, as a clinician still perform psychotherapy and, meet people in that way. But, I feel like the coaching model really gives you a lot of like latitude to do exactly what you're talking about, Anna, in terms of like, mental health is so nuanced and,
Yeah.
traditional pathways to getting help in the medical system doesn't account for that nuance, and a lot of times the nuance is what makes the difference for an individual, a family structure. And coming from a coaching perspective, to be able to look at the person from a holistic level and being able to employ methods that may not necessarily work across the board for everybody, but that could work for that particular person in that particular circumstance, I think makes a huge difference. And huge reason why I, as a provider, avoid insurance companies, because I don't want you to tell me that I need to be avoiding the nuance. I want to live in the nuance with the family. I want to go to their house. I want to see what's happening. I want to watch the interaction between the mom and the dad. I want, all of that stuff makes a difference, makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I wanna live in the nuance. I'm gonna put that
Yeah.
on a Post-it because that's where
Yeah.
I wanna live.
Mhm.
I definitely felt when I was providing, psychotherapy and just in that space, I felt really restricted, and
Mhm.
that messed with my mental health because
Mhm.
it's just so frustrating, and I do feel like there's a freedom. I'm like, I'm able to meet you where you need me to meet you, where you and your family need me to meet you,
Mhm.
as opposed to being in this box, so I definitely agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
For people who may not know the difference between what traditional psychotherapy looks like versus a mental health coach, can the two of you expand on that?
Yeah. Do you wanna explain psychotherapy and I'll explain coaching?
Yeah, so psychotherapy is, kind of like a prescriptive approach to mental health challenges. So it's more rooted in, the keywords here are evidence-based practices, right? And there are certain treatment modalities, like a lot of folks have heard of cognitive behavioral therapy or solution-focused therapy. That's where that miracle question that Anna was talking about comes from. Um, so it's a way, it's a set of guidelines for how you help people move through their challenges. And so psychotherapy looks very different depending on the provider and the person that's sitting in front of them. But traditionally, when you're delivering psychotherapy, it might be within a medical model whereby you're billing insurance companies or you're working within a larger medical infrastructure, whether it be, a hospital system or even in private practice, you still have to deal with insurance companies sometimes. And psychotherapy is great. I don't want to make it sound like it's not, because I still practice it and I think it's very helpful and therapeutic. My only gripe with the way that psychotherapy is often talked about in the mental health space is that it's often talked about as like the thing to do. It's like the thing to try, the path to go. And I think that oftentimes it's not it's not where people need to start, and it also might not even be a place that people need to end up if they have the proper supports in place in other areas of their life. So traditional psychotherapy, it's like you're sitting on the couch or you're laying on the couch and your therapist is there with like the clipboard. Everyone has that idea of therapy in their minds. It definitely doesn't have to be that way. There was this image that I saw that I feel like really hit it home for me. And it was a therapist sitting across from a client. They're like in a chair, and the client has like a thought bubble above their head, and it's like this ball of yarn that is just like wrapped in and around itself. There's knots everywhere, and then the therapist is on the other side and they pull the yarn and it's like coming out straight, right? And so psychotherapy is really a way to like figure out what's happening in your mind and how what's happening in your mind is showing up for you every day in your physical state, whether it be your behaviors or environment. And so there's certainly a place for it, but it can be a little restrictive because traditionally it's based on these evidence-based practices that, you know, historically research and evidence-based practices have been conducted on a certain group of people, right? And so, I have a little challenge with them sometimes because it's like, how many people of color were in that research study that showed that CBT was the best thing for depression or, whatever the case may be. So, I think as a provider, I always find it important to think about new approaches and make sure that I'm in a position that allows me to live in the nuance with the people that I work with. And that's not really, I don't think, the rule. Most providers aren't afforded that ability, but yeah, so that's psychotherapy in a bigger nutshell.
Yeah. Now listen, I love that. I was like, yes, give us all the things.
Yeah.
I probably won't explain mental health coaching in that way, but that level of detail, I'm like, come on, Diana, take us there. But I value therapy as well. The company I work for does offer coaching, therapy, and psychiatry. So we work together as a team to be able to meet the client, where they are and based on what they need, right? But so mental health coaching basically is about meeting them where they are now and more future focused. And how I explain it is really, in simplest terms, is we go from here to the future. So we're talking about goals that you have for the future and dealing with anxiety and depression and all those things, based on where you want to go and what you want to improve. So we do not diagnose. We do not talk about the past. We do not process the past and things like that. And that's, again, very simple because that's not all therapy is. But when I explain it, I'm like, this is what coaching is. And therapy is more processing, is more diagnosing and all of that. We don't do that. There are shorter sessions. Our sessions are like 20, 30 minutes. And, they come in with like a life issue. And we're like, okay, so how are we going to work on this? It's very collaborative. It's very much the client is in the driver's seat. I'm in the passenger seat and we're doing this together. And sometimes, of course, I have that freedom where I'm literally making suggestions because sometimes they're like, come fix me, because it's difficult to understand what coaching is and what therapy is and the difference. So they're like, come fix me, come do it for me, give me advice, and I'm like, I can't do that. I can't give suggestions, and some people literally can't think for themselves because of the space that they're in. So I can provide suggestions and I tell them, I'm like, eventually, we're going to have to brainstorm this together because I'm like, what can you do differently? Because your life, right? A lot of times we're telling them what they need to do. This is what I'm prescribing. And, but I'm like, deep down inside of what you need. I'm just going to help you bring it out. And so again, we're mostly focused on goals, focused from the present to the future, and helping them break them down and achieve those goals. And that's anything from losing 20 pounds to getting, I want a toolbox so that I can manage this anxiety and not deal with these symptoms. It's at a 10 right now, and I want it to be at a 6 by the time we're done working,
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love the
Yeah.
focus on the future and where you want to go, and it's really in alignment with how we like to think about mental health at Pinnacle is, it's hope. It's not like despair and let's talk about all the things that ever happened to us that, brought us here. And, there's a place for that. There's a level for that. Right. And, we had the warrior moms on the last podcast. And one of them was talking about how one of their friends was like, okay, for the next 10 minutes, you can cry. And then after that, no more crying, right? It's like,
I love it.
and it's like you create a little bit of space for that, but really it's like,
Yeah.
how are we moving forward, right? Because I think as a society, we are well versed in talking about what the problem is, right? Everyone that you meet has something to say about what the problem is, right? But being solution focused takes a very specific approach and attitude, and it's really something that is healing. Once people get on that train, they can really make radical changes in their lives and see huge differences in a short amount of time. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Psychotherapy can go on for years.
Yeah.
Years,
Mhm.
but if you have a more solution focused approach, coaching, you're working towards something, it's empowering, and
Yeah.
you can make a huge difference in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
I think that, those thank you both for those explanations. I think for people to hear those differences is helpful in so many ways, because the first thing that comes up for me as somebody who has spent so much time helping people navigate systems is that there is so much terminology that is thrown around, and
Mm,
people I think at times will take something and put a bunch of things, like a mental health coach and a therapist and these kinds of things, and put them into one bucket, right? And then the person is confused, right? Whether they're looking for something for themselves or for their child, or if they are matched with a therapist, for example, they get a referral and it's not working and they have a difficult time choosing somebody else or saying this isn't working. So many times I hear I really like this person, but it doesn't feel like we're making any progress. And it's like, well, hearing Diane's explanation, you can kind of understand better. Well, maybe their approach to therapy just doesn't jive with who you are and how you process things, right? And so I think these are the pieces of education that are oftentimes missed when people are trying to address mental health. And that is one of the things I think is one of the big disparities between physical health care and mental health care, is that when you go to a doctor for a physical ailment and they're going to send you to a specialist, they take the time to explain to you, this is what the neurologist is going to do and what their
Mhm.
specialty is and what you can expect that day. And somebody's going to call you ahead of time and they're going to, have a pre-visit phone call with you and register you, and you can ask all the questions and so on and so forth. And with mental health, it's like, we've made a referral to this person and it's 6 months until you get in, and you can show up and it'll be 50 minutes long, and you get who you get and you don't get upset, and hopefully it works, because if not, it's another 6 months. And it's like, ugh,
yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Literally.
that's not
Yikes.
a way to make decisions about anything.
No,
At
no,
all.
no. Jeez.
Literally, that's so discouraging. But you said something that is it seems so small, but again, is so important to highlight, is that you have the choice to, change your mind about the person. Even if you've been working with them for 3 months and you're like, I've given this a chance and this is not working,
Mhm.
even when it comes to a medical provider, because
Yeah.
there will be medical providers, anybody that you're working with, that you're like, this is just not working. Our values are not in alignment. You're not even listening. I had healthcare provider. Tell me what I needed to do, and I understand. You went to school. I get that, all the things. This is my body. This is my body, and you're not listening to me. And I was like, this isn't really working out because you're not even letting me speak. And again,
Yeah.
as a woman and as a woman of color, I'm
Woof.
like, you think I'm making this pain up?
Yeah. Yeah. See you later.
And right. And being like, well, that didn't work out. I will find another provider. And the same with therapists. When I started therapy, and I didn't know this, when I started therapy for myself years ago, I sat in this place every week so uncomfortable because I was like, I guess I just have to stay with them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not working out. And then, I had a few different providers because I was like, what is happening? I had one provider, and I now know as a provider myself that the time restraints and everything like that. I was in the middle of crying and I looked at the clock behind her and the time was wrapping up or whatever. No, she looked at the clock behind me and was basically like, are you done?
Yeah.
I was in the middle of crying, and I
Can
was
I
like,
have your card, please?
I was like, and swipe,
Are you gonna
swipe.
wrap this up anytime soon?
You're done. We're at 48 minutes, girl. I said wipe, and I was like, I'm all set with you.
Yeah.
But it's knowing that we have the choices and options, because even that approach might work with someone else, right? They're okay with you being like, oh, this is our time, or whatever, how they would have approached it. That approach didn't work for me, and it wasn't the best for me at that time. I needed something different, and being okay with being like, the sucky part, of course, is what you mentioned, right? Is that it's going to take a while to find another provider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always say to people, when they reach out to me for services, I'm like, let's chat and see if we're a good fit, right? Like, I'm not just going to take you on just because, right? Like, you need to also feel like I can help you, right? Like, and so it's an interview process that goes both ways, and that's really how it should be, And so whenever I'm talking with anybody about seeking out services, I'm like, interview your provider, go with, here are some questions that you can go with, ask them this, what are the things that are important to you, and if this person isn't it, like you said, it might take a little bit longer to find the right fit, but it's totally worth it, rather than wasting your time and energy with someone who it's like any other relationship, right? It's got to be a good fit. So
absolutely. I tell my
time,
clients
energy, and money.
that part, and money, and we know that's tight.
And on top of it, if it's not a good fit, eventually you're going to leave that person, and so you're looking at that wait time anyways,
right?
And so it's like, just kind of cut your losses and make that decision. But it is much harder in the mental health field, and we have less, because of the way that insurance companies are currently running. There are less and less providers that are willing to take insurance, and are willing to provide a super bill, or whatever documentation, or maybe you can pay with your HSA or something like that for the services. But I think the mental health providers, I think especially the ones who are coming out of school now, who have grown up in a different generation and have a different take on mental health, do not want to provide service within the parameters of insurance. And so I do think that there's definitely a reckoning that is coming when we think about what behavioral health care is going to look like in the future. And I really hope that it doesn't end up falling back onto
the consumer
patients, the way that it is right now, that eventually, if insurance companies don't have they can only operate under ghost networks for so long, right? Like this train of ghost networks and pretending that you have all these providers that you don't have can only go on for so long before you actually have to start to make some changes in what you're providing and covering underneath your health insurance.
It'll be, I don't know, the day that I start taking insurance, I don't know, I'm gonna need you all to check on my mental health. That's as a provider, it's just like so yucky to even think about. It's like not even worth the hassle, and you're not even helping people. So what are we doing?
That part, we're not. We're not.
We're not. We're not. You're not going to tell me how many sessions this person is allowed.
Right.
You've never met them. What are you talking about?
Fix it in 12 weeks. Fix it.
Fix it.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not paying for more than 10. I'm like, okay. And you have
Right,
to be in an office. Okay. Like, what?
right. This is one of those things, I mean, that's a whole different system, but it's one of those things that there's so much change during the pandemic and you're still operating in that, like
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
little.
Complete all of this documentation. It's going to take you an hour, but we'll pay you 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Like,
Bruh.
Bruh.
Bruh. Like, what?
Insurance companies, get it together.
Literally,
together.
do better.
Do better. Jeez.
So
Oh.
Anna, we have some questions that we ask all of our guests at the end, but before we get to those, I would love to hear what is happening over on your podcast, The Community Well.
Yes. So the Community Well podcast, we did season 5 last year. Season 5 was really hard, y'all. So the Community Well podcast is about being vulnerable and transparent. Our guests come on and really talk about what they've experienced and kind of pouring into the well, what they learned from certain situations, how it impacted their mental health, and what they're experiencing now, and sort of taking from the well, right? Whatever they need to really build community around just being real. Right. I feel like I don't like to, just sugarcoat things, right? Thank you. I was like, what's the word I'm looking for? Sugarcoat things. Like, this is me. I'm like, I work in corporate. This is how I talk. I'm like, I don't have time. Like, life is too short for you to be, like, be anything other than who you are, to be faking and hiding behind lifing, right? Let's just have lifing together. Let's do it together. And really just the need around community. I feel like that's a really big piece that's missing. And that's a whole different conversation, but just being able to come together and help one another out. And so that's what the Community Well is all about. And so our guests come on and talk about all different things. We are pivoting into it, focusing really around wives and moms. Season 5 was me by myself talking about all my life update because I kind of abandoned the podcast. Really hard time for me. My mom passed in 2020. What year? I don't know. It was like a blur, but I really, for a whole year, I had a lot of projects, that I was working on, and the podcast being one of them. And I just dropped it. I said, see you later. Bye. And that's hard when you have a community because it's like, girl, where'd you go? So season 5, I talked about that and sort of the transition and the impact that had on me as an individual, but also as a wife and a mom. And I just have a heart for specifically generational breaking moms, the curse breakers, the ones that are navigating things that, there's just an added pressure and an added layer that people don't understand when you're breaking curses, right? There's things in your generation that other generations pass down. And now you have to not only hear yourself, but there's a whole thing that can be handed down. And you're like, what am I doing? And you have no community because there's the people that are no contact or setting really hard boundaries around toxic and dysfunctional families and all that. And so we're pivoting towards that and how, that impacts marriages and how that impacts children and having just healthy, centered families. And a lot of people don't have that. They kind of look at the people on social media like, you hang out with your in-laws, you hang out with your siblings. I don't have that, and I really feel like there's a need for that. So we're pivoting towards that in season 6 and really being able to provide tools and resources. I want to do more, right? I feel like the podcast has been around for some time, and I feel like I've been really stopping myself from doing more with that. And I think I'm ready. I think it needs to be done. So
Yay.
I love that.
So exciting.
Thank you.
We're definitely going to be sharing that as a resource.
Yes.
So many people need that.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm super excited.
Yes. When you said the generational curse breakers, I got goosebumps. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is such a thing. And it's just amazing that you're giving, people a platform and a voice for that, and also a place to turn for information and resources. That's one of those things that can feel so isolating. It's just like, so
yeah. And one of those things that's taboo as well, especially when you talk about like the faith and Christ-centered, right? There's like this black and white, like this is how you do it. And y'all know I'm all about like the faith and the mental health, because it's like, just pray about it or just go to therapy. And I'm like, no, there's this middle place, right? And that feeling isolating as well, and feeling like I'm just, over here just drowning and nobody sees me,
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. I'll let y'all know when,
Yes.
that level, we reach the levels of having an actual tools and resources. Because again, I'm pivoting, being okay with making the pivots, right?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, girl, we know all about the pivots. We know.
Oh,
We
God.
know. We know.
I'm just like constantly pivoting. I'm just
Right.
busy.
I know.
Okay.
Literally.
Spinning and spinning and spinning.
It's like that Friends episode. Oh God! Every time anybody says pivot, I think of Ross with the couch.
Yes.
Pivot.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah, that's what it feels
Pivot.
like, right? You're like, oh no, this couch is gonna go down the stairs and kill somebody.
That is literally how it feels. I can't do this. It's gonna fall.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
So funny.
Now I need to go watch that episode because that was
Yeah,
really...
that's a classic. That's a
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah.
All right. So, as Christy mentioned, we have questions that we ask every guest. So, this is our guest Q&A section of the podcast.
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm going to ask the first one. KG. Okay.
Go for it.
So, I think we started talking about this a little bit today. We've touched on it. But, the question is that we live in such a fast-paced world, and small moments of joy and gratitude can often be overlooked. So, what are some of your glimmers, those short windows of joy and happiness that fill your soul?
Oh, that's such a good question. This world is so fast, and also based on your personality, because I am definitely a type of person. So I need anchors to help me. But my glimmers are definitely as soon as I start the morning, I have my me time. That's huge. I go to the gym 6 to 7 times a week, mostly because it's for my mental health. So just I feel like that's a privilege, right? To just wake up, and I feel such deep gratitude to be able to move my body. I dealt with a lot of health issues and chronic pain. So I just have a deeper level of gratitude to be able to get up, move my body, pay for a gym membership. Actually, I have two. That's a privilege. I know. So, I'm just deeply grateful for that. And then having moments of looking at my little family, because I'm a curse breaker myself. And so I've had to navigate a lot. And we've had to navigate a lot as a family. But when I see these moments with my little crew where they're able to speak up, they're able to be themselves, their full selves. And sometimes it's a lot because the personalities are they're outspoken, they're strong-willed, they're really energetic, they're all these things, but I don't suppress that as a mom. I've come a long way, right? I've dealt with my own issues of that's a lot. And, coming from a yelling environment and all these different things. So for me to see my growth as a mom, to see my little family and these just pockets of joy within my crew and how we resolve conflict. Yeah, those things make me super, super happy. It makes things worth it.
Amazing. I love that.
So great.
Thanks.
I love it.
That just brought me joy.
I know.
Oh, thanks.
I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Especially when you slow down, right? You just look at it, you're like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. You're like, y'all drive me nuts, but I'm so glad. I'm so
I
glad
know.
you feel like you could say that to me right now.
Literally, you go from up high to really down low. You're like, what is happening? And I'm like, did you really just say that to me?
Yeah. You're like, good, but don't.
Right. You set those boundaries. Go ahead. Set those. Did you really just say that? Like, what? I'm so proud of you for setting those boundaries, but not with, okay.
Okay.
But not with mother.
Right. Not mother. Right.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Our next question is, what would you say to somebody who is currently struggling with their mental health?
Ooh, someone who is currently struggling with their mental health. Oh, my light just went out. Sorry, that's random. I mean, listen, some people feel like their light has been, taken out. I mean, that's real. If we talk about that, right? People that have literally feel like they walk around with this cloud over their heads that no matter what happens, everything just feels dark. The world feels dark and feel like there's no hope. Man, you're not alone. That's literally the biggest thing with the Community Well podcast, with everything that I do, because, I wrote a book as well about my own mental health struggles. And I wanted to share because I want people to know that they're not alone, despite how crappy the system is, despite how, infuriating it is. You're not alone. And there are things that can help. There are people that can help. And there's probably a lot more people that are in that same situation. So don't compare yourself. That's huge. You have greatness in you. You do. You have greatness in you, and there is definitely hope. It would be my little twinkle. I could say so much, but that's what I would offer.
Perfect. Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Okay, so the next question is, and I think we've already talked about this, but so you can keep it short and sweet if you want.
Yeah.
Mental health stigma is very real. So how do you encourage open conversations about mental health?
Yes, we have had many conversations. I mean, mental health conversations happen every single day, everywhere I go. From talking to my kids to talking to their teachers to talking on social media. We just talk about it like it's the same way if you broke your foot and you would go to a provider. It's the same way you're feeling some type of way. Why don't you try mental health coaching? Why don't you try therapy? And even, with my boys, they go to a therapist every 2 weeks or something like that. And their friends ask them, where are you going? Where do you go on Thursdays? And they're like, to therapy. And they're like, what's wrong with you? And my kids are like, nothing.
That's part of it.
That's part of it.
Why.
Yeah, exactly. I go to therapy. Like, you know what I mean? So making sure that it's just a normal conversation every single day with everyone I encounter.
Love it.
That's great. Yep. That's what we have to do. Just keep talking about it.
That's it. I know, until it becomes normal and no shame around it.
Exactly.
One day.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's coming.
We have hope. We have hope.
So many people struggle with maintaining a work-life balance, and having that has a significant impact on their mental health. What is your favorite boundary to manage this in your own life?
Ooh, that is really good. Ooh, I'm trying to think about what part, because very real. I go in and out within my own work too, of operating in one way, right? There's the me that sets the boundaries and like, I'm not thinking about work. And then there is the me that carries work with me. But I think my ability to reset really quickly is important, right? Because sometimes I catch myself thinking about work outside of work. And it's like, no, ma'am, we're just going to reset, do the top 3 things that bring you joy today. So I think that's important for me, is to ensure that I'm doing things that bring me joy daily, and then having a reset plan, which includes I have a therapist and I have a mental health coach of my own, to ensure that I am not carrying on more than I have to, right? Because I am very much that person that takes on the emotional part of like, the system is jacked up, and then I get really enraged about the injustice around, we could be doing more and this is impacting, and so then I go down a rabbit hole. So for me, it's just ensuring that I'm not thinking about work outside of work, because that's not helpful, and having my pockets of joy and my team that helps me reset.
Amazing.
That's great.
And along those lines, what's your favorite self-care strategy or strategies that you would recommend people to try, and why?
Ooh, my strategies. So go to the gym for other things other than your physical health. That sounds weird. But like, you go because you want to lose 20 pounds, and you want to go because you want to get the summer body.
Yeah.
I go to the gym for my mental health. I go to this place called Hotworks. And so you work out inside of a sauna, 130 degrees. Yeah, it's hot. It's crazy. You do like Pilates and like core. And sometimes I do 20 minutes, and then I take my book in there and I read.
Amazing.
I sit there and I scroll, like whatever I need, and really asking myself what I need. So that's a huge one. And then there's another gym that I go to for social and starting to meet people at the gym, right? Because at the end of the day, I do have physical health goals. And so I want people that are in alignment with that. Are you active in your life, and where are you going to find them? At the gym. Met so many people in my community at the gym because you have the same goals. So going for your social, going for, even career and finances, you end up meeting people and you never know who you can network with at the gym. So go to the gym because I'm obsessed. I'm a gym girl baddie.
Me too, girl. I was just gonna say. Same.
All the way.
All the way. Yeah.
And reading. Escape your worlds by just reading, and not necessarily personal development, self-help, because that's me. I'm all day trying to fix something. And I'm like, that gets to be a lot. Just read a novel, read something that just makes you escape,
Chrissy and I were just talking about this on our last Facebook Live. How, we think we have piles of books that are like reading for pleasure, but then you pick up a book, you go to the pool, and it's like how to fix your life in 10 steps, and you're like, wait,
like, what?
Fun.
Then you wonder why you're struggling to get through it. I just read 2 books in a matter of 4 days, guys, because it was a novel. But I've been trying to get through a self-help book, and it's been like 3 months.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
Exactly. You just need a juicy fantasy to get into. Yes.
That's it. Yeah.
Yep.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, Anna, it has been such a pleasure to have you with us at the Easy Speak. Thank you so much for joining us. It feels like a real full circle moment, having been on your podcast, Community Well, and now you're on ours. And I really hope this isn't the last time. I hope we can find some more ways to connect and continue doing this wonderful work in the mental health field together.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, y'all. It was a blast. I'm like, please have me back because I like it here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're always welcome at the Easy Speak. Just tell us when you're coming.
I love it. Tell us. I love that boundary. Just tell us when you're coming.
Yes.
Don't just show up at my door.
No, I just want to make sure you got the link, girl. I just want to make sure you got the link.
I appreciate y'all.
Yeah. Amazing.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Guys. Thanks for having me.
Have a great night. Oh,
she's
the best.
Amazing.
I know.
Her Such good energy.
Unmatched.
Yeah. So well, this has been an amazing episode of the Easy Speakeasy. We will make sure to link in our description all things Anna, from her podcast to her book, which she just slid in like it was nothing, that she wrote a book. And
wait,
all
you said that?
Yeah.
What?
So we'll make sure to connect all of the ways that you can get in touch with her and follow all of the amazing things that Anna has on tap coming up, and all of the things that she has done, because she is just such a bright light and an amazing person, I think, to have in your toolbox, and somebody that you can listen to or read something and will bring profound moments and knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I might have to slide on down to Texas and hit the gym with her. It sounds like a good time.
Right?
Pilates in a sweatbox? Excuse me.
I know.
Sounds kind of gross, but also totally a vibe. I just know how much I sweat. Oh God. Don't forget to stick around for our meditation minute, and please, please, please rate, subscribe, and review, and tell a friend to join us at the Easy Speak.
Bye.
Bye.